Open chat. How do I... It'll pop up soon. Let me know when you're saying. There it is.
There we go.
Open chat. Until everybody gets in here, and then we'll start to go into everything. So don't you think there's an energy behind what you're doing now, Brian?
Oh, well, I've been using this example recently with people. So everybody, I was just explaining to Jenny and Miss Jeep here how I finally have funding to, not only for the Full Disclosure Now conference this coming July, but also for an online platform and then a cryptocurrency that I'm going to launch to help drive the movement further forward and much faster, and help put money in the pockets of people in the movement so that, you know, we can go to all these events and conferences first class. And it's been like, I've been actively involved in the full disclosure movement for the last 3 years or so, and putting a lot of my money, my own resources into it. And I felt, and looking around like yourself, Jenny, and probably you as well, Miss Jeep, and a lot of the secret space program veteran people and Montaukers, we're like the knights who should be knights in shining armor, running around the land, slaying the evil and cleansing it. And instead, we're knights in rusty armor. It's falling off of us. We can barely afford to feed ourselves, much less our squires, if we have a squire. You know, we're assistant or team. And meanwhile, we have our so-called friends and family surrounding us. Some of them are Bitcoin millionaires. They've got real estate. They've got whatever. They're literally sitting on piles of gold, and they're like fat dragons. They've been hopping up and down on their pile of gold, clapping their little hands on their stubby arms with their little stubby wings flapping on their pile of gold, doing nothing, lifting no finger, but they're cheering. Oh, I support you. Great job. Oh, I'm so proud of you, Brian. Good job. Could you lend me a couple shekels? Oh, no, can't do that. We'll talk later, but good job. You know, and I joke that the amount of gold and diamonds and rubies in a crack of the left ass cheek of that dragon would fully fund me and all the other knights that we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And up until recently, I have not gotten any access to that gold. The only two people I could ever rely upon in my whole life are my mother and my father.
Right.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 49. And would I lie with this hairline? And so, you know, but now finally one of these dragons woke up and they realized, well, wait a second, you know, they're inspired by the movement, and they're like, what? You know, like, you tip over 30% sometimes. It's like, what? You got millions of dollars and you can't afford to tip the dude like more than like you're literally calculating what's 20%. like, like, seriously, just drop a 50. Come on. You know, like, you got millions of dollars. And so it's like those type of people. So that energy is finally changing.
Yeah, it's good. And that's the whole thing, because you know, isn't it funny how your intentions, like I said, when they're pure of doing something good, that you're trying to help people, and the spirit has a way of just coming in and showing you you're doing good, and the people come out of the blue, to just back up what you're doing completely. And so you just are. I think the lesson with spirit on that is amazing, because you don't know how, when you give and give and give, and then when it pays back, the way when you give spirit, it's such a reward in a different way, because there's
Jenny,
2 rewards on it.
Oh, well, go ahead with your 2 rewards, and I was going to talk about the energy. You're saying about the energy.
Yeah, so there's 2 rewards on it. There's a lesson that you give, and you understand there's a value with doing exactly what spirit needs you to do, and then they're always like, you build it, we will bring it. And that is how it works.
Exactly. It's so this last grueling 3 years up until now, it's always faith. Like I know, and I've never gone hungry. My cup has always been filled, by source. And so that's why I don't generally thought I was separated from a lot of the SSP community, because I don't tend to have a lot of the targeting and just stuff that so many others have, the vast majority of us. And the tarot card readings and the psychics and astrologers and the tea leaf readers for the last several months, they've all been saying the same thing about at least us Leos. They're all on fire. And they've all been saying the same exact thing. Stay the course, and you will be rewarded. And as beat down as I was getting, I knew it was going to come. I was like, damn, is it going to come yet? No. Is it going to come yet? No. And now that it's arrived, it's like arriving in like spades, and then
Yes.
some, like, holy shit, like it's going to be that much. Like, wow, not only do I have my conference covered and my platform covered, now I can sponsor some people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to join us. Now they can come. Now they're crying and jumping up and down with tears of joy. Like, holy shit, I can come to Florida and see everyone that I haven't seen forever and people I've never gotten to meet. And now, like, that's the community building.
Yeah, it's great. So then, it's interesting how this happens when you do it on pure intentions. You do it like that. Now, you have this year and it's going to go really well. And then they're going to be like, next year, guess what? You have to go bigger.
That's right. We're expecting year 3 to be really large. Year 1 was a lost leader. It happens. We had less than 6 months. We were being shadow banned and under attack. But now, literally, the astrology, the planets and stars, the alignments are changing. We're out of Mars retrograde and Mercury and then Mars retrograde. And then apparently all this stuff is happening for Jupiter and Leo, or I don't know how it works, but basically the tide is turning. And I like to think of it like this. The evil ones, this whole time, they've been like Miley Cyrus naked on the wrecking ball. I'm on a wrecking ball swinging across. And they've been swinging. And they've been really going. And they thought they were going to bash through the wall. And if they had bashed through the wall, they would have won. But instead, they kind of bashed into the wall and kind of thunk and like bounced off. So yeah, now we're all the way over in the evil, like their high power territory, but they failed. So now we're swinging all the way back into the light. So now that tide is turning, and people are like, I don't see the tide's turning. Everything's so terrible. It's like, well, yeah, we're all the way deep in the terrible shit, but the tide is turning finally.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of both.
Yeah, it's turning into a positive aspect. I even told you, so there's going to be an energy there that's coming. We talked, what was that, a week ago? About that.
Yeah. And that was before, we were speaking before all this mana from heaven is starting to come in. And when I was still kind of beaten down, like my rusty breastplate, it's falling off the armor. And I'm like, geez, I could use an upgrade here.
Isn't it funny how that works? We change, everything changes. So I think this whole process, and like I said, I think as I've talked to you, is these, after this whole effect of what's going on with everybody wants information, but they want to see things play out to the truth. And I think, like I said, these truther conventions are going to come because people want the stories. They want to hear what happened. They want to see what would happen behind the details and everything else. So I think there's a truther epidemic that's going to happen on these conventions. And that's what they want. People want the raw truth on everything now. They don't want to be entertained anymore.
Speaking to that, Jenny, one of the people who is helping to fund my efforts for the movement, they attended a conference might have been Vegas, where Elizabeth April was speaking. And Elizabeth April, after that event, she did a show saying she was very highly disturbed because the other 8 panelists that were up there on stage with her decided to spontaneously gift a Kundalini activation, light work or whatever meditation activation opening on all 500 people in their audience at once. And she said, whoa, you can't just like
Mhm.
like dump that on a crowd
No.
that large and not expect.
No.
So my one family friend was in that audience. They had a spontaneous Kundalini activation to the point where they were manic because they were seeing things or hearing the telepathic voices that people were thinking, their thoughts and their heads, all sorts of stuff. And she was put in a psych ward. And I had to help advocate to get her out because after she came a bit down from her mania, because she was high, and then now she's talking normal. She was going from still that 3D language of like, our ET's real to like, oh, ETs are real. Like I've got an aura, my chakras are all open, and she didn't know what any of that was. Now that happened, now she's like super hungry for this information, the disclosure, the spiritual ascension stuff that she was blind to before. And then now she's realized, wow, that pile of resources, she wants to put it to good. And that was an
Right.
awakening. That it kind of took the fat dragon getting bonked on the head a little bit to realize, they need to share a bit. And,
Yeah.
and with that hunger, they're coming to our conference. More and more people are going to be having that bonked on the head experience, and they're going to be so hungry that those are the people like they're
It is.
on the internet for the next 10 hours at a time, just eating it all up and going through all the Q stuff and the Epstein Island stuff. Like that's just for starters. And then the Galactic Federation stuff. And, it goes on from there.
I think people are ready. This is the thing. I think they've gotten past the understanding that we've been lied to about everything. Okay. So now they're seeking the information, and they know they have to dig deep, and they know they're not going to find it on Google. They know they're going to have to talk to the real truthers and hear the stories and see it for themselves. That's, the whole process of doing that is very important. So we want the raw truth to the core, to hear it, to feel it, to see it right in front of us, because we will never be put in this position again in this time again, ever, of trusting to that capacity, ever, letting our guard down.
Yep.
That was something we should have never done. But it was a way of that programming, the way it worked, and to make it. And it's the same thing as like you see with the churches. They make you think that everything's assured, everything's fine, and all, and then it's not, because I think that's coming down in a big way, because doing what they're doing with the Catholic Church is just the beginning.
Yeah, with the Pope dying, oh gosh, that definitely is putting a spotlight on the Catholic Church and the Vatican.
Okay.
You're messing with your camera. There's nothing.
I know, I can tell they are. So yeah, I mean, it's changing in a different way that we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's kind of I'm sad to say it, from the 3D perspective. I was crying for 2 years about my family and friends and everyone rolling up their sleeves. And now that my dad passed from the Jibbies 2 Novembers ago, and I've gotten to speak with him on the other side via several very gifted psychics and channelers, he's come through during multiple sessions now, and he's consistent in his message. He's proud of me and the movement and what we're doing, but he never expected the jabs to take him out or to go that fast. And, but he's happy now. And I think he'll come back to a new earth. And, the 3D perspective is it's a tragedy. The 4D and 5D is this, we're all here to learn our lessons in soul school. And if we have to learn the hard way and check out and come back around and hopefully learn it better the next time, so be it. It's okay. Like my heart is no longer breaking that my dad's on the other side as a victim of that. Now he's great on the other side. He's supportive of me and my mom and brothers, and he's still there for us on the other side. But it's not the end of the world. Like my heart isn't going to be always broken. Now, having said that, the other side took out my father, so now I'm going to take them out.
Yes, I mean that's the whole thing. There's not the full capacity of that energy yet. Of once you feel that anger that's coming, that the ones that will wake up, because we don't know, because I think there's so many NPCs out there. When we get to that veil of understanding, and then you feel that, And I mean, they're going to want blood then. They're going to want prosecution fast. And they're like, we're going to take care of ourselves if you don't start taking care of it. And that's what's happening. There's a taste in people's mouths. They want to see it done. And if you don't get it to a certain point, they're going to start taking it out themselves because they're seeing more of it every day. That starts to get into people's heads. They start to look at ideas and how to take it out and how to process it because they're going to want it eradicated from our plane. So that process is already happening. There's people that have been waiting for this whole, I would call it spiritual war, their whole life. And they're ready and they're geared up and they're ready to take them down. So this is not going to be something we're going to tiptoe into the situation. There's going to be an aggression that's going to come, and it's going to be blunt force trauma fast to take care of them. And so they better get ready. This is, we're getting into that, I would call it the spiritual war zone we're getting into. It's the dark and the light, and it's showing its truth daily.
Yeah, whatever you think of Luigi Mangione, you know, whether he's a psyop or not, imagine instead of one Luigi Mangione going after one healthcare CEO, it's 1,000 of them. And that's starting to happen. You know, you look at a lot of the European politicians right now, like Macron, he can't walk around without a gaggle of bodyguards because people are, you know, yelling at him. You know, also Italian politicians, they're yelling assassino, you know, murderer for these campaigns. And then it's Israel, the whole Likud and Netanyahu and, you know, the inside job of October 7th, all and 99% of the Israeli population being jabbed, you know, I mean,
well, that
imagine.
is where I did a channeling on that. And this is what they said about that, you know, when they talk about the last war of that. And with those jabbed ones, as that comes online and what's underneath the ground in Israel and everything else, that's the last battle because there is a ton of history that's underneath that ground. And it's been piled up with all these churches to occupy us. Where was it? Was there a fire there today, or what was it, Jeep, in Israel?
Oh yeah, there was a fire, lots of fires.
Yeah, so
it
that's
was like
going
the Temple Mount or what?
Coming from under the ground.
Oh, underground. Yeah. Okay, that's
where I see the tunnels. That's why I've been talking about the tunnels for a long time. That underneath all the churches and all them putting stuff together, and underneath those grounds, and I did pictures of it. What's going on under there? That has to be surfaced to it. It has to be shown in public eye what was really going on underneath there. With the Vatican, all that stuff has to come up too. So these are two areas that they have to surface that stuff. And it's not going to be something you're normally wanting to see or expecting to see what's going to surface to the top.
Right. Well,
we have to witness it.
I think it's a good sign that the announcement of the Pope's passing was Easter Monday, 4/21, because other people online have pointed out that 4/21 was the 111th day of the year, which is like an angel number. And the vast majority of these announcements by the Vatican and the royal family tend to be on like 666 type anniversary dates, whether it's weeks, months, you know, days, years, or whatever. And the fact that the Pope's passing was announced on a generally positive angel number 111, as opposed to like the Queen, they announced she passed like the 666th day after something else happened. Like, you know, I think the gematria is showing that it's shifting for the better.
Look, that day. I'm saying that's not the day, but anyway, yeah, we're just the reveal of everything is coming, and right now you're at a point where you either choose to see it or you are in complete denial and you don't want to face it whatsoever.
Complete denial
whatsoever.
Right.
I put out a post, like it was basically a ding dong, the Pope is dead post. Yay. And it's like him as a reptilian, you know, with like the mitre hat and his staff. And, you know, people, not a vast majority in my circles are supportive, but one guy is like, that's so disrespectful, you know, I'm trying to educate him about the Pope and the Vatican. and the Council of Nicaea, and the old wine being blended with the new fresh wine that should happen. And to me, the Vatican is the whore of Babylon.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. And what they've hid underneath the Vatican is very dark, and fed it, and fed it in different ways. And I don't know if you guys understand. I talked about this. I think it was a couple of years ago. And you see all the cardinals now, but I think at the time that they were doing the operation, the real operation, they gave them a choice. You can either, we can either prosecute you, or they go into that room, and they decided to all go at the same time. So I wonder if they're going to reveal that, because I had a person that talked about that. So, but I mean, the pride, the evil will still have pride all the way to the very end. And a lot of these that have been prosecuted, the stuff that they're saying on their way out, because they know they have nothing to look forward to. They all are still, I think there's governor of California. He was one that you can look up.
Oh, Newsom. Yeah.
Yes, he was Oprah was another one. Mm-hmm. Hillary was another one. I mean, just their attitude going out the door. There's no remorse. No whatsoever.
No. Oh no, God. I mean, they hurt children. So once you're at that level of hurting children, your soul is already hugely compromised. Like, you can't have an intact soul and hurt children systemically. No.
It's so, and they're gonna rolling out the film on this and watching it, and just submitting it, and then comprehending it into the brain, and these people are going to be like in shock, and then shut down emotionally.
Oh yeah. So society they have Gavin Newsom had a harem of little children.
Yeah,
that's going to be a new thing to all the Act Blue donors.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with Gavin, and he's a perfect example of this. Old school evil, as bad as it is and was, it's like the example of Willie Brown as the corrupt mayor of San Francisco. He's an old school fascist. Mm-hmm. You give him a bribe, you give him the votes, he'll scratch your back. He'll make sure your idiot cousin gets a job at City Hall that he can't get fired from. He'll make sure your garbage company gets that contract. But Gavin Newsom, he's the new millennial version of evil. And freaking incompetent. You can throw money at the guy, Silicon Valley money at him, get him all the votes and whatever, he'll get elected. And then you walk up to him and ask him for a favor, and he probably wouldn't know you. He wouldn't care how many millions your whatever PAC gave him. And then he couldn't even deliver on whatever it is you probably wanted. So evil, in addition to being hunted down by all of us angry people, it's incompetent because it itself has devolved in a way.
Yeah, and I think people don't understand, like downtown LA. I mean, there's a military everywhere that's going on, and you're not seeing it on the news. You're not seeing what's going on down there. I've had people, they have to go on certain areas to get in and out of things. And I mean, they're going through those trenches of all underneath the ground to dig everything up, to bring everything. I mean, all those houses in LA, it's all going, it's going to be the one big dark morgue when they're done.
I heard, Jenny, it's in terms of the rebuilding, stalling for all the people, like 25,000 houses burned over 10 miles of LA from, the water inland to Altadena. Like 5 housing permits have been issued for like Malibu. It's something crazy, stupid low. 5.
Yeah, because they're not wanting to rebuild. They know it's going to collapse. Those fault lines are going to collapse. They're going to move into islands. And that's when these things surface from the oceans and everything shifts. They know that's why they're not doing it. They know what's coming, but still, people in California, they got it in their head that somehow they're going to be able to save California. You're not going to be able to save it, especially on the coastline. It's going to deteriorate.
Yeah,
in such a way.
California's not. It's got a lot of pent up karma that's going to be released in a not good way, I suspect.
No, it's not. So I mean, the whole process of we turned our backs. We let our guard down, and now you get to see how dark it is, how deep that pit is. And a lot of these people at the conscious level that they're at won't be able to even sustain it. So you're looking at such mental health issues that it's going to be vast. You think the military has already got us to a certain operation. Their concern is going to be the citizens. That's what I think their concern is.
Oh yeah, I mean
what risk
they've
are
had that
they
concern.
to society?
They've had that concern the whole time, and it's understandable. We're seeing, I mean, I think it's manifesting in the polarization is happening more and more, where either people are keying Teslas in their pajamas, right, and filming themselves freaking out because the orange guy got elected, and then other people are like, more and more people. That's like the 20% left minority. Most of the mainstream normies who were on the fence, they're looking at that and they're like, well, I don't like Musk and I'm not like a Trump worshiper, but shit, I'm not like that. Like, I'm not dyeing my hair 50 shades and like, running around, with like ZZer on my name tag or whatever, attacking people because they've got red MAGA hats on. That polarization is revealing to society, like you're saying, like with the jabs, we're learning the hard lessons in such a hard way. There's no forgetting that,
No.
Yeah.
No, it's bad.
So because it can't be repeated ever. So it has to stick.
You have to annihilate off this planet. Yeah.
It's happening. We're definitely going in a higher vibration area of the universe, with the age of Aquarius and the photon belts hitting us. And all the readings say the same thing. And the dark is being burned out. I think of it as kind of like a John Wick scenario, where you imagine these super wealthy people who were employing super expensive assassins and fixers, operators, the bad guys. And these bad guys thought that their masters were going to rule the earth and they'd be showered with wealth and riches. Well, what happens when these same bloodline family leadership, they start getting their resources dried up and they're no longer able to pay that 40 million retirement that one John Wick guy thought. Now word gets out. So now these people are being hunted down from their former contract killers. And it's going to be this internecine type. Not only the rats fleeing the ship, a lot of them are eating each other as the ship is going down.
Oh yeah, they're vultures to each other now. They'll turn them in. There's no loyalty.
That's right. No loyalty.
What's going on. We're at that
phase
where they're doing it. They're doing it now. Because it's kill or be killed, and that's what's going on. And you got to know that if you're in that politics game, you have no friends. It's all cockroaches. It's all cockroaches.
I mean, they know they've got blackmail tapes on them circulating around, so they're already compromised. At that point, they're worthless.
Mm-hmm. It is. But like I said, I honestly believe that this whole event will bring us to our knees and make us humble, because it has to. The ones that are left, knowing that we're not NPCs, we're not these organic programs, we're not all these reptilian process that's going around and been here for a long time. So when you get down to the population and what's going to be left, it's just going to be shocking for people. What's really going on?
So if they want to wake up, they better detox as well.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to drive. That's the ultimate lesson. Is people are watching their favorite singers and movie stars dropping dead at 28, or bodybuilders dropping dead at 36. You know, I mean, I lost a buddy in his 40s, was like a bodybuilder, you know, buff dude. It's like that guy didn't look like he had a heart problem, you know, and it's like people forget, if you're going to be a multi-million-dollar contracted soccer player, you don't think that the team gives that soccer player a physical. Like, you're going to do a $30 million contract on a person, I'm pretty sure you're going to check the guy's heart. And then, you know, and his heart was, you know, great, like a steel drum or whatever before the jibs. And then afterwards, now the guy's got, you know, myocardial infarction problems and needs to have a pacemaker put in. the people who refuse to put 2 and 2 together are the same ones who are dropping dead themselves from the jabs and suffering the turbo cancers.
I think Kennedy today was talking about the testosterone level. You know, men that are in their 60s, the 70s, they got more testosterone than the ones that are young and 18, because guess what they're doing? You know, that's what's going on, the programming, the whole process of it. You know,
yeah, Clint Eastwood has more testosterone than any soy boy.
Yes, exactly.
Right. 80-year-old Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, right. Is he still around? Is he gone? He's still around, isn't he?
He's still around. He's looking kind of haggard, but he's up there.
Well, that's good. Yeah, he's one of the good examples of that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that on every avenue, they've depleted, you know, programmed, controlled, you know, dismantled, the whole process of that. So how they're going to reinstate that, I don't know, but we're going to see what happens. I mean, you know, the whole education there. I mean, right now it's not education, it's programming. So I'm wondering when they're going to completely stop that overnight, you know.
Well, a couple of things there is the Trump administration literally shut down the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So now the federal level that's been pushing out all this like pornographic material for third graders, that's gone. USAID/CIA is getting dried up and cleaned out of funding. Good. FBI, Department of Justice, the FDA, they're starting to lean on the Federal Reserve. The big one I'm praying for in the immediacy is the IRS being abolished. And so as these institutions
we're all waiting on that one.
We're waiting on that one. That's the party. That is the party, right? They could do that, and we would be fine, and we'd be happy for weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm on a tax strike. You know what? I'm going to say it right here publicly. I advise everyone to tell the IRS to go F themselves. They are unconstitutional. They are thieves. And if they want to come at me, I will make it a very public spectacle.
Yes, exactly.
And the money you got out of me for the taxes you claim I owed you, that's going to be your downfall. I will be the nail in your coffin.
Yeah, it is. And that's what you're seeing more and more. People are like, we're done. We're done. Because you can't show that you can even be responsible with our money. Why would we give you more anymore? No.
No, hell no. Hell no.
No, not at all.
Look at Social Security. You know, you put all this into Social Security and then like all that, and then they like trickle out to you each month after you're 65 or whatever, 55 or whatever, you know, your money back. Forget it.
Yeah, I don't even think about that.
If you had invested that much money back then or over that time, you'd have gotten, you know, huge return, like 100 times whatever Social Security would have given you.
Right. And this is the thing. People really believe that that's a reliability, but that is a source to have when you get old. And I'm like, that's not a source. It's a scam. It's a complete scam. No one that's on Social Security is satisfied being on Social Security at all. There's the game.
No, and then how many people I meet who they could work a second job that they're good at to bring in some supplemental income, but they're too afraid they're going to jeopardize their Social Security. And
yeah, it's the programming. Yeah. It is complete programming across the board. So, and that's the thing. I mean, like I said, you know, you have to look at your government and look at what's clean, that's never been touched, that they haven't corrupted. And those are the two things they're upset about. XRP right now, because when that goes over and it goes to the top, then that's it. It's done. The cabal's done. And then Elon Musk, they can't control. There's also two things. They can't do anything, and those are not corrupted. So everything else that you can look around and go, yeah, it's all corrupted.
Well, you mentioned XRP, Jenny. Apparently, the SEC is finally dropping all their filings against XRP. And then they just swore in the new, I think it might have been the SEC guy, but he's like much more positive to cryptocurrencies and approving their applications. And so some people are speculating that maybe XRP, now that this new guy is appointed, he might now come out and make an announcement about XRP, and then that would presumably help XRP jump up.
Yeah, because Spirit told me that this is the real party is when the XRP gets to the head top. Okay, and you got millionaires overnight and then have done this, and then that at that point the cabal is done. They know at their point there, and that's the celebration. That's what I'm waiting for. Is that
it's like a jubilee?
Yes, it is a jubilee, and that's
wealth
the thing.
transfer.
Yes, it is, and the dark is annihilated in every way on that. So, and another thing that's, we go into this new quantum system and everything. Like I said, it has its own sense of truth or lies, and I mean the negative's not getting the money. So I mean there's no more scamming anymore. I mean that dismantles a ton. So, and you're seeing it on Telegram and everywhere. It just scams everywhere. It just
God,
hot. It gets sick of it.
Like DM me so that you can transfer everything you have to this QFS ledger that I can just steal from you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and there's been a lot of people that have been ripped off from it because they get sucked into that whole process. And that's why I said, when we truly get our money and you go to the distributing centers, you don't give anybody anything online, through the phone, nothing. You just go there, make the appointment, and then talk to them in a privacy. That's it. I mean, don't give any of your information to nobody right now on any process of that.
And it's interesting that Source said that when XRP shoots up, that's kind of when we'll know. And that's very much consistent in terms of all the people out there who want predictions from folks like yourself, Jenny. Where they're like, when? It's like, well, it's not dates. Like April 21st, 2025.
I know.
It's trigger events. And so XRP jumping up would be a trigger event that we could probably hang our hats on. And a lot of people in our community, I know for a fact, have loaded up on XRP.
Yeah.
And so at the day that shoots up, I mean, whatever XRP I have some. If it shoots up and it goes from this to that, what I do is I take that much and I disperse it out to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
it's
and then
about that.
I
That's
get
what it's
gifted
about.
more.
Humanity. It's about humanity and what you're doing after this, right, Chief?
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing after this.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be sitting around and just collecting money and not doing anything. And that's why I tell people you have to figure out what you're going to do after this, how you're going to contribute to change this world, what you're going to do.
Right. Who's going to start growing a chicken farm, raising chickens for everyone, the town to have eggs, and who's going to be on meat, and then who's going to grow the vegetables, and then who wants to do tinctures of CBD flower to replace all the pharmaceuticals that we've gotten rid of, and who wants to be the local motorcycle and bicycle repair guy so we can all keep getting around. And then it's going to be the incorporation of the spiritual and suppressed physical technologies, like everything from telepathy and astral projection, I think, will be coming much more online as in the near future, and getting access to clean energy grids and anti-gravity for travel. I mean, someday those.
Well, I think it's sooner than you think because that's already out there. And Elon Musk is, yep, he is the doorkeeper to all of that. how we travel, how we drive, where we're going. I don't think we're going to be driving on land as much as we think we are. I think there's going to be a lot. I think the floodgates are waiting, and once they say, okay, let them out. And that's why you're seeing him slowly release about robots and what home pods and everything, and inexpensive and energy and all that stuff. That's why I said he don't give a shit about those trucks. You know why? Because he's probably like, hey, we already knew what you guys were going to do. We're waiting to launch all of these. That's just his personality and his mindset. He would do that. They're all a step ahead of everything. The liberals are predictable in their actions of what they do.
Because they're reactionary. They can only react. And if they're only reacting, then they're easy to predict. It's when they're proactive that makes them dangerous, but they don't have the intelligence or the imagination for that, much less the organization, thank God. Now with Elon, because you bring up Elon, and he's very contentious subject in our community. When he threw up that Sig Hail, oh my gosh, I never heard the end of it. And I got blocked and kicked off podcasts and all sorts of stuff. Why? Because I don't know, because I didn't hate on him enough. My take on him is that he's Illuminati bloodline who is now trying to, there's a certain minority of the bloodline people who want to break away from the old system. And so whether it's Elon or a clone of Elon, I think that he is part of that group that wants to break away. And what I'm told is that, he's been put through the system. He probably has alters and stuff. He has an alter, at least one, that's aware of our secret space programs and the fact that we're already on Mars. But he, at the end of the day, does want better for humanity. And of all, like, the bloodline people, he's like by far and away the best choice. Right. So do I personally like the guy? Not necessarily, but do I think as long as he's walking the proper line, minding his P's and Q's, and doing things like Doge, that's great. If he steps over the line, like with Neuralink, and is caught, experimenting on prisoners or young people or whatever, then if he got executed and replaced with a body double, would I cry? No. But because it's not about Elon, it's about the evolution of humanity. And if he can play a role, great. If not, well, he'll get out of the way the easy way or the hard way.
But see, this is the thing. This is how programmed they are. To get the reality of how deep the state has screwed us over, and, all over the world, everybody has screwed us. And, and we literally have worked on our backs, and we're carrying everybody. In that programming that they have, it's like, don't listen to that. Even though you might have contributed to helping pay for all this as a taxpayer, just ignore that and still get angry and mad and upset, because that's the program. Because they don't deal with reality. They don't deal with facts. They don't deal with numbers. They don't deal with documentation. They deal with emotion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you don't have a clear analysis and you're confused, you default to what you know. And what do they know? Death and taxes, 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll put away something for a retirement, but they'll deal with that when they get there. In the meantime, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. And in that environment, it makes it even harder because you got that financial desperation, much on top of the ideological despair.
Yeah.
And then that's where we're a breath of fresh air, because now we're not only saying this whole system is garbage, we're actually presenting an alternative. Plenty of people, they come around, the system sucks, it's garbage, but do they have an alternative? No. And we do.
Yeah. Generation X is the bomb.
Yeah, we're Generation X. I'm definitely Generation X. Don't mess with Generation X.
No.
We're not drinking violets. And you take out my dad, I'm going to get you. Not, they hurt my dad. Oh, let me get my next shot. It ain't like that.
Yeah, the baby boomers, Generation X's, they're not playing. And so it's just, and they're going to see that process of how we were raised and how those skills are going to come into the process. And that's all, like I said, all Trump's got to say is stand up. And then he asks, you're going to see it. And all it has to say is 2 words: stand up, and it's going to show you the army, God's army, that's there. It's right there. They have no
There's
idea.
always a place for those who are doing God's work, and there, and because of that, as long as we stick to the path, we are blessed, we're protected. And I'm seeing that this latest round of just, I thought I was not at the end of everything financially, but I was starting to dig into my resource, like, shit, where's the cavalry? And now the cavalry is coming, and then some. It's like the cavalry is coming, and they bear gifts and
Yes.
everything we need. Yeah, like, and
The
then
wise
some.
men,
Like, I thought,
they're coming.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just coming with like a hamburger; they come with a hamburger and gold and like a caravan. It's good. It's good. Now it's about time too, because it's because I think Source is really probably enjoying seeing all those who took it for granted that they were going to enslave and eat the rest of us, um, learning the hard way that that's not going to happen. And meanwhile, all of us who've been or tried to be faithful servants, he's starting to line us up and give out the gifts. And then those of us who are earlier in line, we're now being empowered to share what we have with the people who are in the back of the line. And then when they catch up, the sky's the limit.
It is.
Right.
And that's the whole thing is we once were a world of peace, a long, long, long time ago. And then someone had to enslave and have control. It's ridiculous. And we need to go back to peace.
Lamoria. It probably goes back to Lamoria, where they were more cool and chill and more like the organic, like spiritual hippy dippy type. And then you had the Atlanteans, who were the more technocratic fascist. And the deal is apparently the Atlanteans, they really love to kidnap the Lemurian high priestesses.
Well, I also think that Tartarians, and they're protectors of that too. And really, that's kind of my thing is the Tartarians is just, I think their architecture, the way they built things, how they did things are just amazing. And I think, kids these days would love to know that true history of that and all of that.
Well, with the Tartaria, what I understand from primarily Arkeem Ra, before he kind of went off on me for Trump derangement syndrome and Elon derangement disorder, but he's testified, or actually he has an alter named Edward Hughes, who has an Australian accent, is from a parallel Earth timeline that's like 4.5 years ahead of where we are in this timeline. And it's a much more positive timeline. In that timeline, the Vatican and the Catholic Church was never a big thing. They got wiped out a couple hundred years after they first developed in like 300 AD around the Council of Nicaea. And in that timeline, Tartaria never got wiped out. They never mud flooded. So in that timeline, Edward describes speaking through Arkeem, describes how they've got a lot more airships, like blimps floating around. And so a lot more people are doing like classic air travel, and they all dress like Dick Tracy or like the Matrix when they're all looking sharp and good. It's like Edward Hughes, he popped into Arkeem, and Arkeem was wearing like sweatpants. And Edward's like, "Oh my God, what am I wearing? Like, get me out of these sweatpants. Like, I need a suit jacket. Come on. I want to dress like Brian." That's a joke. And he said that, and Audrey Walters also speaks about this from her galactic court system contacts, that Tartaria represented a stage of human development where a lot of our mental, psychic, spiritual powers were unlocked, along with like this etheric clean energy technology. And the Khazarian mafia, derp state, reptilian overlords saw that there's no way that they could have continued to contain humanity at the rate that we were going unless they reset us. And then I believe from there, they used a lot of technology and weather warfare, and also the Montauk Project and time travel. to wipe away as many vestiges of Tartaria as they could, and they weren't able to do it 100%. And that's why all these people are cluing into like the World's Fairs and all these old photographs and paintings, like all these airships flying around, and, you know, and seeing electric trolleys before they supposedly were supposed to have that. And so we're getting wise.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're like, and they're, you know what they're saying, you know, are we actually in the year we're told? I don't think so either. I think we're way behind that. And, you know, because how can you verify that? You know, because look what they've all taught us and showed us. They're telling us where we're at. And I think I agree. I'm like, no, we're not. Nope, I don't believe
Well, you know about
that.
our calendar, right?
Yeah.
You know why they call it April Fools?
Yeah.
Because April 1st was the original New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened is when they reset the New Year's to be January 1st, they made fun of anyone celebrating New Year's on the original date, April 1st, and they called them April Fools.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that April Fools were actually true. And that's why August and, you know, October, which should be like Octo 8th month, right, is a 10th month. That's because it got shifted. Or, yeah, I forget how exactly got shifted, but I believe April 1st is supposed to be the first of the year.
Right.
And that's when we lost Ophicus.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, so I mean that alone, where they're like, what do you mean we're not in 2025? No, we're not. You know, because it never felt that way to me. I'm like, there's something wrong here. You know, I've always felt that.
One theory I heard was that we're like 8 years off. So like 2012 wasn't that. And so like 2020 was supposed to be really 2012. I'm not sure how it works. And again, it's not the exact time or date unless you're really into the gematria and numerology. It's, I think, like we were discussing earlier, it's event based, and it's how spiritually evolved humanity is. That's what allows the positive ETs to contact us openly and not violate the prime directive. So, you know, someone was asking in here what event you were speaking to, Jenny. You know, I think, are you talking more about like the reevaluation event?
Well, I think, and this is, I think we're behind 75 years.
Okay.
I think it's long, it's further back than we realize. And just because someone puts that date out there, and it does, because you feel that we should be more advanced in technology, it doesn't make any sense. And if you look at our history where their technology were, you know what I'm saying? What happened in between, and why are we still not where we're supposed to be? We should be way advanced by now.
We've been reset at least 5 times, I believe. And I'm told that this is our 6th time or something like that. And it's our last time. It's like, get over the hurdle or into the meat grinder. And in this timeline, I'm 99% sure humanity is getting over the hurdle. I'm sure there's probably lower timelines where we don't get over the hurdle. But, you know, Source probably wants to see what that looks like too. It's a what if thing. And many of us who've had dreams that are like super vivid, I believe we've been able to see these timelines. Like I've seen like a timeline where a zombie apocalypse occurred, an outbreak occurred. You know.
Well, I think what's changing because I'm doing these meditations and I'm sensing it, and we're hearing all these frequencies come outside of us, and Spirit goes, it's not outside, it's inside you now. And that's why we're getting cold and we're getting hot and we're feeling this emotion and this, and they're like, it's always been inside. And that's what they have always wanted, the connection that we have with Source and those frequencies and the energy and the information and the conscience levels and the development. You know, our whole path has been already putting us in school and developing what was inside of us. And now I'm sensing it, I'm feeling it, and I'm getting the response with it and the verification on this process. We're not where people think we are anymore. And I think we're looking through a different glass window, and you can turn left, turn right, and it can be two different processes that you're looking at. It depends on your veil of understanding what conscience you're going to look at things at, completely across the board.
Yeah. And you know, you've been in contact with your higher self and your intuition, your gut, your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us in the community, I feel like to varying extents, we have listened to that inner voice. It's all the people in society who have ignored that voice, haven't developed that voice, never paid attention to that voice, that they're the ones in for the rude awakening, and they're the ones who are going on crazy rampages. It's usually, when you look at all the school shootings, every one of those adolescents were on psych meds.
Mm-hmm.
A vast majority of them had gender dysphoria. And those people, you know, if you're so confused that you're suicidal, you're not sure what gender you are, you're listening to the voices telling you to go shoot up the school, that's a very high frequency jump. First they just need to get clarity at the 3D level, much less the 4D level, right? They have to be able to tell if they're a boy or a girl, you know, and I'm sure there's hermaphrodites out there, and you know, that's fine, but that's not my point.
The thing is this is the process. When I want you to think, when the internet is down, when everything's shut down, see, and they're not going to have their phone. Okay. And this is the thing. They have to rely on themselves. I want you to understand what a shock that is to these people's systems. They don't know what that's like to rely on their free will, their inner strength, their ability to survive. They don't know what that's like. They look to something to tell them what they need to do. And that's where this got suppressed, and you should have been listening to it, because that makes you survive in any situation. That was always the true degree, the camp that we went through in life, that we should have been listening to, because that is what's going to get you through this whole process. And the black sheep, oh my gosh, the black sheep of the family, we are the heroes. We are the heroes of that, because we listened, and you can't get us to change your mind. How stubborn we are. We don't care. It doesn't matter. We didn't roll up our sleeves. Oh my God.
We didn't do this. And so they
that was a hell no, I ain't going. I don't care. You can
that
kill
was
me.
No, that was a come at me. That was a come at me. It ain't happening.
Yeah. There's no way. Happening. Yeah, it hasn't happened to me, and it's not going to happen to my daughter. And I was just like, no way, no, when hell freezes over. And that's the whole process of this, is the whole level and the veils of the programming. We're saying we're seeing it, but wait, you haven't seen it yet. And you're going to see the dismantling phases that are coming. And then people are going to be like, what do we do? And like, now you're worried about it. We've been trying.
You come to our conference. Come to Jenny exclusive Psychic Gallery at the 2025 Full Disclosure Now conference this July. Get all the answers.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean.
Hey, Karen. We have an amazing audience here today, too. Just want to say hi to everybody.
Yeah, everybody's great. They're all awake, too. It's amazing. So, I think a lot of them are going to be at that conference, so we're going to see what happens and everything. So you want to talk about more about that, Brian, and everything?
Yeah, like my big surprise, other than we're going to be unveiling the Full Disclosure Network platform and the cryptocurrency we're launching to help drive the movement, is so many amazing people in our community wanted to come and speak this year, but I ran out of stage time very quickly, between having everyone who spoke last year wanting to present, and then all these new people, and then having fewer slots because we're going to be doing panels this year, and having longer breaks in between sessions. It just filled out so quickly. So what I'm doing now is, if I love you and want you at the conference, but I just don't have the stage time, I'm getting a lot of people, I'm sponsoring them and other people to just come as an honored featured guest. And so people are going to show up at the conference and realize that a lot of people who are presenter level people are just there as attendees. Some of them will be doing vendor exhibitor tables. But people like Geraldine Orozco says she wants to come. Barbara Hudak. I've got more presenters than I can stick on our poster right now. So I have to do a second poster to get all the faces, some of the new faces to fit.
Right.
And then there's someone else whose name shall remain unnamed, who they're trying to throw a counter conference again this year. And what they're doing is they're putting out a poster and on their website of 24 faces, as if they're going to have 24 presenters. And if you read in their website, it says, while we're hoping to reach our goal of all 24 or 25 presenters, that is entirely dependent on ticket sales. And so we are pretty sure, something like that, we're going to be able to get at least 8 presenters. And it goes on to say, but be warned, even then, some of whoever shows up, they might not be showing up for the conference in person. They might be over live stream or Zoom. So can you imagine flying out to a conference, not mine, this is a different one, in Florida in October or November, but in Orlando, and you think that, you're going to have this amazing time with these 24 mostly amazing presenters, and then you get there and there's 5.
I'd want a refund.
I'd be a little
disappointed.
And
that's the thing. This is about information. They're not there to be entertained. They want the information. They want to listen to the information. And if you don't have the structure to show that the people that are paying for these tickets, they're not ever going to be able to rely on you for these information. These people want to hear the truth. I'm just saying it's not going to be good if you're just, well, they might show up. Well, that sounds very liberal to me. I'm just saying, back it up.
Yep. You can't be like, hey, everyone, fly out to my conference, smoke them if you got them. Oops, never mind. Hey, who wants to go to Disney World? SeaWorld. Well, I want to go to SeaWorld instead.
I don't care. I burn anyway.
Yeah, and what makes one of the things that makes our event different is, and I consider Journey to Truth, Rebels of Disclosure, an amazing unofficial. Like I feel like we're a sister event to them. So I'm not speaking about Journey to Truth at all, but there are other events where there is a level of gatekeeping. Maybe the person throwing the event doesn't really believe in the secret space program testimonies of the people they're putting on stage, but they throw them on anyway. Other stages in conferences, the presenters will be told, we want you to talk about all the positive ET contact and this and that, but don't go into the satanic ritual abuse stuff. Don't talk about negative Draco reptilian.
You got to be talking about that because that's what people want to know about. Yeah, that's what entertainers. They want to appease the dark and they want to appease the light, and you can't do that. You got to make a choice. Are you serving the light? Are you going to serve the dark? There's no in between.
That's right. And if you serve the light, you have to let there be light, and the light of full disclosure. If you're hiding things or you're controlling the narrative, then you're doing a huge disservice. And if you're trying to gatekeep people in the community from speaking the necessary truths because you don't want to upset the TV ratings, because you want to toe the line politically. So you're not allowed to talk positively about Team Red, or this, and we want to talk about Team Blue. That we're the exact opposite of that. We do not allow that.
Yeah, that's because that's what they're going to remember is the truth, and that it was exposed and it was talked about and it was brought up front and not hidden, because people are tired of everything being hidden.
Yeah, and they're getting a clue that even some of the most staunch normies are getting a clue how badly we've been lied to. Either we're learning it the hard way because a loved one is sick or passing away, or they're themselves getting sick, or the economy never got better, or they didn't get their student loans repaid or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, those are the people who are going to have the hardest time, though. It's that bottom 20 to 30% who are really diehard. Their party can do no wrong. They don't want to hear it. You know, and that's why the Democrats, I'll just say it, they're dissolving. They're in an all-time low. I
Mhm.
don't think that they're going to survive much longer, really.
No. No one trusts them.
No. I mean, I was a Bernie
No.
crat. I remember going to the Bernie Sanders rallies with like just huge crowds of people. It was stupid. In the Bay Area, it's just like, you know, people all over each other. And then to swap him out with Hillary, who couldn't fill a gym stadium, and they think that that's going to work, you know. And in 2020 it did, but that's because the White Hats let that theft happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know Trump won that one. And he
Oh
won,
yeah,
yeah,
81 million
2016.
votes, my
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
No way. Oh, and then 21 million of that 81 million votes to Biden just disappeared for, you know, Kamala Harris against Trump, when this was the most important election ever, you know, save democracy, and the Democrats are minus 21 million votes, even though they've imported all these people. What does that tell
Mhm.
you? That tells you that the White Hats did a damn good job stopping the theft of the 2024 election.
Yeah, well, they let the 2020 happen because it was a sting operation.
Right.
So,
That's right.
you know, and that's the whole thing when everything comes down to the whole process of this. I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, I think it's really hard for us that know the truth, and we're still every day. It's Groundhog Day again, again, again.
You know, I'd say it's really hard to know the truth, but for folks like us, where, I mean, you got clairvoyant downloads and psychic abilities, and I've got a lot of similar. You know, I'm what I'm doing is I'm crowdsourcing the best information I can.
Right.
So while there's no certainty, I like to think that I've got a much more clear working analysis than the vast majority of people. And how do I know if I do or I don't? It's if I can model a prediction and say, well, because I know this, and this, I think it's going to go that way. If it goes that way, I can be pretty sure then maybe, you know, my model, I've got confidence in it. At
Right.
the point where I keep thinking it's going to go that way and it keeps going sideways, that's where you got to reevaluate. And that's where things are going so sideways in society right now. They're having to reevaluate. My favorite example is the Oakland councilwoman in California who wanted to defund the police, went in Berkeley County,
I remember that.
and she got carjacked in front of her daughters and bonked over the head. And then she's crying on the nightly news saying, oh my gosh, we need more police to do their jobs. You know, we need better policing. And so, you know, what's the definition of a conservative? A liberal who just got carjacked or mugged.
Yeah, exactly. It is. So, is there any more information you want to tell the crowd here? And if there's any information you need to let them know about or anything?
Well, I guess to leave off, you know, a mini announcement. This platform that we're going to launch is going to incorporate AI and Web3 technology for our side. So instead of logging on to Chat GPT and saying,
Mm-hmm.
tell me about the secret space programs, and it always goes, well, the secret space programs are of a highly speculative nature. And they give you this watered down 2-paragraph, you know, garbage. Our AI is going to say, this is the real deal with the AI, with the secret space programs. You want to know more? Here are all the shows that we have on the platform that are really good starters. If you want to go on an adventure tour with survivors of the Montauk project. Here's this next trip coming up. Here's this conference in your region. Here's this support group to join. Here's an SSP person to consult them for their remote viewing abilities to help you guide your own life. This is like an X factor that we're bringing to the community to empower all of us. And, you know, our AI is going to learn the best so that it can give all of us the best information and assist. And so, you know, for everyone in our audience, I'd say that there is a lot of hope on the way, and it's already here. And the more tuned in and that we are and in touch with our higher selves, the less rocky this whole process of change is going to be. The much more smooth it is, the more prepared you are and the more spiritually wise you are or in tune, the more you're going to be like Noah. And the less you are, the more like you're going to be like knocking on the door and saying, let me in, when it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, this has been good, and I think the conference down there will be really good because, like I said, it's been a long time, and I think a lot of the people that are coming down to see me and everything. I mean, I think me and Jeep were talking about we're going to be outside at night. You know,
well, that's what we do, because what happens is we do the last panel or presenter in the evening, and then we all adjourn to the patio where a lot of people are going to have special event dinner tickets, or there's also Rum Runners Beach Bar and Restaurant, which is good, super affordable there. And then at the end of the dinner around 10 o'clock, we're all out there on that patio right there on the beach, and a lot of people are going swimming at night because it's that warm and beautiful. And so and Misha Johnson will have a lot of her thermal vision, you know, infrared gear, so we can do CE5 night watch.
Yeah, that's what we're interested in.
Yeah, there's a lot of craft that were there last year. Sean Bond said there were he said that over the course of the event, there were over 50,000 because they're visiting their starseed family, and then they're gathering in the sky above us, and then they're doing intergalactic trade above us. And so I expect there to be a lot more of that this year. And then again, our guest in addition to our speaker lineup is wild. So for more information, you know, please go to fulldisclosuremovement.org, all one word, for the 2025 Full Disclosure Now conference. And Jenny, for you, it's been 2 years since you were last at an event like this.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. The last big one it's pretty big, and that was the thing. I just am exhausted after them, and I just didn't have the energy to do it. And so now, and I told you the first one it would be yours, and I told you, and that's what I committed to doing. So this launches, you know, I'm going to do more, but yeah, Brian's event's the first one, so we're going to get back into the guts of it again.
And you're going to be reconnecting the audience members with their past loved ones and pets.
Yeah, so the thing that's different from me is I think is really neat when I do a big auditorium or there was the people around, is there's an energy there, first of all, that brings in. And I don't go around asking for Bob or Tom, is he here, who this is. I just go to the direct person that Spirit says, now ask them which one they want to talk to, and I get into it and the guts of it. I don't like wasting time. I like to get in, and that's what they want. They want to see the DNA of everything. And I'm known for going after the guys who don't believe, and they're sitting there crying, and they're just like, whoa. You know, because that's
please do that this year.
Yes, I do it.
I'm waiting for it. I'm like that guy.
Yes, that's how I am.
At our audience, but in our audience, to be fair though, I don't expect too many skeptics. Not at our event, but
I don't think it's a skeptic thing. Because and I've had people, and we're talking tattoos on their backs that the Spirit has described, and they take off their shirt and go, yeah, it's right here. So I mean, that's what I'm talking about, DNA, not general stuff that only resides with that spirit, their lifestyle, what they've done, their career, everything. It's not something that's generalized. That's the difference with this, because you open up people like that, you've got to make sure that it's an experience that they love, not leave them open and they're more confused. That's the most important thing about that. So that's how I do it differently. So I make sure
spiritual hygiene.
Yes. Across the board.
You're gonna open a door, you want to close it.
Yes, exactly.
If we literally had people visit our house and they'll alter out and they'll do hand magic and they'll mumble, and then there's like a portal, and I can't see it. I can kind of feel it, like maybe, but my housemates, you can see auras, and the one you can telepathically communicate with her dogs, Jaden, he can see the portals. And this one person, she opened a portal. It took them weeks or months to shut the portal, and meanwhile, a couple nasty like shadow things had come through.
I do. I go on properties and I walk with the person. I do this a lot. They can't find their wills. They can't find certain items on the property. And I literally, it's like walking with the spirit telling me exactly where it's at. And then they find it. Or that's the thing. You can't mess up. They're calling you to recover something. And, that's the whole thing. There's no room for error on that. So that's the thing. I mean, one guy was like, well, I'm looking for my dad's guns. And I tried to find him. And his dad's the first thing he was like, they're in the wood pile. I stuck them all in that wood pile. And then we went over there, walked right over there, pulled them all out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
nothing like results.
Yeah.
Results
and then,
talk.
Like Will, this woman couldn't find any of the paperwork, and her dad hid them in the house, in the wall. And I was just like, left or right? And then we just went through, and they're like, so then we're pulling out the wall, and she goes, it's right here. I'm like, yeah.
Jenny, your website is jennyssight.com.
No.
Which one is it? What is it?
No, it's www.jennyssight.net.
Okay,
Two S's.
Now that I've gotten my funding, I'm gonna. Are you still doing?
Yes.
My dad passed, right? And I have a feeling that he
that'd
left.
Be fun.
I was told that he came through and he said, "Oh, there's something in one of our garages." I'm like, "Which one and where and what?" And so, yeah, I'll schedule a reading with you.
Yeah, awesome. It's interesting what they go into or what they hide, or it just feels like already your dad was just this busy head guy and always just occupied and always paying attention to other things. He wasn't concerned with his health in that way. I just got to get shit done. That's what I felt.
Yeah, he used to get shit done. Exactly. And he didn't expect to go as fast as he would. One day it was fine. The next morning, my mom's calling me and saying, "Brian, when we woke up this morning, your father is speaking gibberish." And then it was just like downhill from there. But yeah, he was definitely busy.
Especially when they're a strong person, you've seen them all their life, that strong, and then all of a sudden they're just completely different.
Exactly. He went from being a very intelligent, very active 75-year-old to just being incoherent and then passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure all that, the reason why that we're as far as, or at least I'm as far in the movement as I am, and have brought what I brought, is because of him. And, it's sad to say it, but I had to wait for him to die before I could do a lot of this stuff, like throw the conference, because I knew if I tried to pull this first conference last year off while he was still alive, if he had been alive, that alone could have given him stress and a heart attack and made him freak out. And I couldn't, live with myself if he passed away, because like he found out I did my conference and now my whole family's looking at me. But now that he's gone, it's given me a lot of running room, and he supports me on the other side.
Yes, exactly. Their personality is really funny when it comes through, because they are very blunt and upfront, and they describe things, and you think they're going to focus on things that you think are a priority, and they're totally focused on something else, where this damn watch is or this picture is. Why don't you have this up? I mean, I go into full arguments with them, or I get ones that are just like, well, everybody thinks when they pass on who they're married with, they're going to still be with them. And it's just like, no, I'm not. And it's insane how the message comes in a different way, each person.
Well, I'm super excited for your gallery and Miss Jeep to have you there as well.
Excited to be there.
Yeah, so everyone, please check out our website, fulldisclosuremovement.org. If financial hardship or anything, and you really feel the need to be there, feel free to reach out to me directly on Facebook as Brian Tseng, SolarBee at my nickname, and feel free to message me directly. Let me know that you're part of the audience for Jenny, Lee, and Miss Jeep.
That's great. So, you want to do the bell? We'll do the bell. Fine. I got my bell.
Yeah, my bell's in the other room because we are having to mess with chase out a shadow person. So you two ring your.
So
yeah,
we'll do the bell for the children.
Yep.
Okay, guys.
Thank you for your time, everybody. And I look forward to being back. And hopefully all of you can join us in July.
That'd be great. Stay in the light, guys. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thanks, Brian.